Hey everybody, you're listening to So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Garrett.
I'm David.
Today on the show, we are going to wrap up No, we're not wrapping up. We're not wrapping up. I forgot.
Oh, I forgot. We don't.
Yes.
Oh,
I was going to say
Oh,
we're wrapping up Men in Black with Men in
Crap.
Black 3, but that's not true because we still have Men in Black International to do.
As far as I know,
technically a sequel.
we're wrapping up the original series.
yeah.
Series.
Yes.
Oh my God, I forgot
original
about
trilogy.
Black
We're going to
International.
include it for now. We're going to include it as all part of one trilogy. We haven't decided on some other groups like that. Like we did the Star Wars trilogies as individual groups.
True.
If we ever do Jurassic Parks, we might do those as like the first three and then like this new Jurassic World series. Or we could do it all as one 6-movie series.
Yeah, but you have to do this one because it's the only other one. Like there is no other one with Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth.
No, not yet. And probably never.
Yeah.
Probably never.
We can only hope.
But anyway,
Conversation for next week.
Yeah, that's for next time. This time we are talking about Men in Black 3, which came out in 2012, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
May 25th, 2012. I believe that's Memorial Day weekend.
It is.
Again, Barry Sonnenfeld is back with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. This time, bringing into the mix Josh Brolin, Jermaine Clement, Emma Thompson, and surely some others, but those are the main folks. Bill Hader, Will Arnett. Those are some fun guys.
That's all we have. Yeah. Alice Eve plays the
Alice
young
Eve,
version of
true.
Emma Thompson,
Yeah.
but not necessarily in a large role.
Right. So in this movie, this is again several years, 10 years, in fact.
10 years later.
After Men in Black 2, Will Smith, or Agent J, is essentially sent back in time to go stop Jermaine Clement's bad guy,
Boris
the animal, just Boris.
Boris.
Because he wants to kill Kay before he blasts off his arm, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Agent J has to go back in time to help him. It's pretty cool, I thought. I mean, you got Josh Brolin playing a young Tommy Lee Jones. Most of the movie is set in 1969. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So how did everyone feel about this movie, first impressions? Go.
Much better.
Yeah, I would agree.
Time
Cool.
I've seen
Good
it.
talk.
No.
I was playing
I was
chicken
gonna-
with Garrett. I wanted to.
David always wants to go last. He thinks he's more important than everybody.
No, I just don't want. I don't want to dominate the conversation. I know it's going to happen, but I like to delay it for as long as possible.
Delay the inevitable.
I hadn't seen it before. This is the first time I've seen it. I don't know why in the theater. And then I just never was in a position to sit down and watch it. But man, it was really good. Fresh air compared to 2, which I liked 2. But as of now, after watching this, it's a back to the original, and that's much needed after 2.
This is definitely the shot in the arm that Men in Black needed.
Strangely, yeah, it's same story as Garrett. Never saw it. I remember being younger and really wanting a Men in Black 3. When I was like, Men in Black 2 wasn't necessarily like my favorite movie ever, but I really liked the 2 movies and I really liked the idea of Men in Black. And so for like 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, I'm just like begging, can we get another Men in Black movie? Like Men in Black is so cool. I was the same way. I wanted a Jurassic Park 4. I really, I liked Jurassic Park as a franchise. I really liked the first 2, and I think the third one's not as bad as everybody says. I know it's not great. It's not as bad as everybody says. So those are like 2 franchises. I was like, why do we never get any more movies with these? They're so good, or they're so fun. And by 2012, I checked out. And Men in Black 3 didn't, from the way they marketed it in my memory, it looked that great. That said, first time watching it, honestly, a little bit blown away. that it was as enjoyable and as fun as it was.
So this was the first time for both of you two,
Correct.
correct? Okay, that's I like that dynamic. Two of us have seen it before, two for the first time. Yeah, I mean, I felt the same when it came out, that I was pretty surprised that it was as good and fun as it is. And I felt the same now, having watched it again. It held up. I was afraid that it wouldn't. I was afraid that I had like built it up in my memory of, oh my gosh, this is so much better. But no, I was very happy that it was still very funny. I think it might be the funniest of the three so far.
It was really funny. I quite
Maybe.
enjoyed it.
was.
Like, it is
Maybe.
laugh out loud funny on several occasions, and most of it is because Will Smith has such a great line delivery.
Yeah, and definitely this one, maybe because of your experience with the first two, this one I felt like compared to two is much more, the humor is much more character based than gag based.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the
welcome
real
change.
comedy comes with the dynamic between the characters of J and K. And luckily, Josh Brolin in the role of K seamlessly picks up the role.
Yeah.
And the dynamic is just as good.
Completely
in my
believable
opinion.
as a young K. They have really good chemistry, really good back and forth. And even as I've watched these movies in a row now, really see that J, who doesn't grow up with a father, really looks at K as a father-like figure. And even whenever he goes back in time, you see that dynamic. He's really, in this movie, he's really trying to understand K and wants to know more about his backstory and really kind of connect with him on a more than just a partner level. And that's what he's been seeking this whole time. He's either been seeking approval or trying to prove himself, or in this case, again, trying to have that deeper connection, because you see how much Jay really cares for Kay. And you can see that being picked up when he goes back in time with a young Josh Brolin, or young Kay as Josh Brolin there. There's nothing lost there. It seems like it picks up just so easily.
Yep.
Agreed. It's kind of like, I mean, you could make the joke that Josh Brolin is just doing like the longest Tommy Lee Jones impression, but it's not really that. He has like I feel like he did a great job of really finding the character, not just Tommy Lee Jones's way of performing it, but finding like the things that character, his mannerisms and his gravitas in a scene, his interactions are really funny, and it's kind of fun to see Kay at the age we probably would assume that Jay is supposed to be. You know, I don't know how old Jay is supposed to be here in his like mid-30s, and Kay is claiming to be 29, but it feels like what Kay would be like when he's younger.
Yeah, you
I
forget
thought
pretty
that was great.
quickly that it's not Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
And not in the sense of they're irreplaceable or they're interchangeable, but that you just accept like that this is who Kay is now. And it's not that big of a jump because of how good he is at getting those mannerisms down and getting the character down, so that it does not feel like an impression. It feels like he embodied the character.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the plot of the movie, you know, I remember when they were marketing it, and when they said they were going to do time travel, or when I saw that in the trailers there was going to be time travel, I kind of checked out whenever they first announced it. I was like, no, it's hacky.
Time travel's tough.
It feels tacked in, and it feels like an excuse to not have Tommy Lee Jones in the movie. And at the time, I'm thinking the whole point is Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. So like, why bother? So it was a turnoff initially, and having now seen it though, I felt like this was one of the more interesting ways I've seen time travel done.
Yeah. So the idea, according to the Wikipedia page, which you can find online, obviously, the idea was originally pitched by Will Smith during Men in Black 2.
Yeah.
According to this, it says he suggested that his character travel back in time to save his partner and exploring his backstory. Sonnenfeld said it took a long time because of the nodding issues with time travel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I always just assumed that they did the time travel situation because Tommy Lee Jones wasn't interested in doing a third one, but I don't believe that's the case. I mean, as I continue to read this, it sounds like he was also down to do a fourth one after this movie was done. It was just the script of the movie, which again, I very much enjoyed. Good job, Will. Put him in charge of more things.
What do you think, Andrew?
I think that overall, it was a way better effort, and I love how they got the time travel aspect correct in the film. That's what I took away. That's what I took away the most from this movie, and when I take a look at it now, it's like, okay, that was actually one of the better efforts of time travel recently in film. Because when you think of time travel in film, you think of like Back to the Future or just like Back to the Future is the first thing that comes to mind.
Right.
And right now,
Bill and Ted.
It's just it was overall very fun to play around with, and it's cool to see how like the beginnings of the Men in Black came about.
Yeah, that sort of throwback to the '60s Men in Black. It's a really cool, like, you know, and it feels like they did Men in Black International. I don't want to focus on Men in Black International for this, but it feels like if they were setting up any kind of future Men in Black series out of this movie, it should have been a retro Men in Black series.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been cool.
Men in Black set in like the 60s or 70s, where you can kind of have a little bit more fun with the idea of, you know, aliens walking among us in like different time periods, because I thought that whole area was really cool. Skipping forward a little bit into the movie, Bill Hader as Agent W playing Andy Warhol undercover, that was really funny to me.
It's a great bit.
I love that whole bit, and I could see a whole movie not necessarily based on around Bill Hader, but just based on that time period, because 60s, 70s, they were strange times. Aliens would have fit right in.
And the main runtime for all of these movies is around an hour and a half. This one in particular, I wish it was a little bit longer.
It did seem to go pretty quick.
Yeah.
Especially towards the end. Like, it felt like the final act was just like done.
Like, pick it up.
Yeah. Like the second they show up to, like, I know you kind of want that, but the second they showed up to the launch site, it was just like, bip, 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 and we're done.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that was a cool sequence. I liked that fight on the launch pad with the rocket about to take off. But I also really liked the time travel sequence as Jay is falling from the building. And he's just like going through time as he falls. Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah, like he has to
some
go
of
all the
this,
way back to the
some of the
beginning.
CGI doesn't really hold up, but whatever.
Yeah, I
Fine.
was thinking the same thing.
That's the problem. That's you can't fault it. That's the technology of the time.
You know what though? It holds up within the Men in Black movies.
Yeah,
like it kind of like, even though like it's a little bit more forward than Men in Black 2 and 1, obviously, but like. It's not like it kind of like watching them all together that really kind of like, I was like, yeah, this looks like a Men in Black movie. All the special effects aren't super, but they're good enough.
Well, and also these movies are so practical whenever it comes to their effects, because it relies heavily on makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Because mainly all the aliens in all of these movies are real. Like they're actually walking. They're actually walking around. You know, they have makeup effects and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I don't know where it went wrong in terms of computer effects. Just one of those things, I guess.
I mean, this movie was, I believe, nominated for an Oscar, and the competition was nominated for Best Visual Effects. Competition was stiff. If you look at the other movies' visuals that came out there, you can't blame it on 2012, because this was the year that like Avengers, Hobbit, either one or two came out. Life of Pi came out that year. So it's like you can't really blame it on 2012. It just might not be something that was as much a focus. They had monster creator Rick Baker back, so the practical aliens do look fantastic.
Yep, I agree with that.
You'd mentioned the humor, Josh, and I took note because it really did back up with the humor of the original one. I noted that there was one joke that could have, like, I feel like would have been a main joke in the second one that was hidden in the third one, but picked up just enough to be funny, and it was the Viagra joke,
Yes.
where he was
that
wanting.
Was subtle.
It was very subtle. It was as they were going away, and it was just in the background as something bigger was going on. But it was a funny joke in the context presented. But I feel like that would have been the main joke in some kind of main focus with Men in Black 2, and it would have come across as a stupid joke because it is a stupid joke, but it's much more similar to Martha Stewart being in the background and you just kind of picking up on it. It's like, oh, an alien created Viagra, that's funny. Right. Rather than, oh, you're throwing this in my face, whoa.
As opposed to like making like a big deal about like that's like everybody hold up, I'm gonna make a Viagra joke real quick.
Boner joke.
This was like off camera, quiet.
Right. And that's what they did throughout the whole thing. Like those kind of jokes were hidden, and the smarter humor was the focus, which was much appreciated.
Fun stuff in the background. You know, when Jay goes to Coney Island, it's very blink and you'll miss it, but there's a sign for the amazing talking pug.
I did not notice
obviously
that.
Would be a reference to Frank.
Right.
And so like that's a joke that like if Men in Black 2, if they had this time travel sketch, they would have like actually went and found Frank and talked to him and stuff. This is just in the background, blink and you'll miss it. Fun reference. This movie's much more. It's hard. So like if this had been Men in Black 2, I think people would have really liked this more.
Yeah.
And they probably could have done it. I mean, it would be basically the same thing. It's like present K can't remember what happened, but he has to go back but Jay wants to go back and save him. Do pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
And Men in Black 2 doesn't play into this movie in any way, really. No. So.
And I think that they did a better job with the villain, too. I think that I really liked Boris. I thought that he was intimidating. I thought he was pretty scary. He felt like an actual threat, whereas I never really had that from Serlina. There was mostly like, again, it was a focus. Men in Black 2 was more of a focus of a race against the clock to get something off of Earth and to save it. Whereas this one, he really was cause destruction. Like he wanted to set out and do the bad, and he was believable, which is humorous because, you know, watching Maine as a comedian musician for many years on Flight of the Conchords, he was still funny, but he was able to, he was not a funny villain. He had moments of humor, but he seemed like a pretty believable villain, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think a lot of that probably comes down to the makeup effects they did for him.
Yeah.
You know, it's any actor will tell you getting in the actual costume does like wonders for helping you really like get into the mindset of your character. And so probably putting on those glasses and the big thick stuff and the costume probably made him be like, it probably helped him just like go, yeah, I'm a scary alien or whatever his voice is. I can't do it. But yeah, he's great.
He was basically Scorpion shooting spikes out of his hand and had a little lizard or whatever octopus thing that lived in there. It was creepy.
Crazy bug thing. Yeah, he was, you know, it's funny because it is a ticking clock for this movie too, but the punishment for that clock getting to the end is him. Like it's a race against the clock and he's the representation. They're trying to get to this moment before he gets to this moment. So it makes his journey to get there just as important as theirs. Whereas like in Men in Black 2, she's just kind of like trying to hunt. She's following them to get to the thing. Whereas here they're following the bad guy. Yeah. They're trying to get where the bad guy is before he does. So it makes for a better villain, makes for a better antagonist to the plot.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We had a moment. I had a moment of realization for the neuralizer.
Yeah.
When they open up the movie, you know, I don't remember what scene it was going on, but he had to zap somebody, and they were at the Chinese restaurant, and they had to zap all those people. How'd I get them to just hang around?
Yeah.
Like all those people just hanging around at the scene of the crime, they didn't run away. Not one person got away and was like, "Oh
Nobody
my
got
god,
away.
oh my goodness."
That's been a thing since the very first one. Is like people are so like they want to see what happens. They all gather around. Nobody runs away. They all want to see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look right here.
Boy, I'd be running.
I liked it when Jay says the whole thing about this is why we tell you not to have your phones on in the plane.
Yeah.
Stuff like
This
that.
is what you get.
He was real.
Now your GPS ain't gonna work.
He was real sexy with his neuralizer stories this round, and it was funny to see him get more like. I'm going to use the term agitated because I can't think of a different word, but he would just be like,
He was
"Man, I don't
definitely
care."
agitated,
Yeah, and
especially when he got
like,
pulled over by the cops.
Oh my goodness, that one was my favorite by far, because you knew he was going to get pulled over. He was in the '60s, black man in a nice car, racist white people pulled him over, and then he tricked them into neuralizing themselves. And then when he spun around and just said, "Just because you see a black person in a nice car doesn't mean they stole it." And then there was a beat, and he goes, "I did steal that one, but that's not the point."
You steal that.
Delivery of that was so perfect. It was hilarious.
I liked how the neuralizer was at first a giant machine.
Yeah,
That
the
you had to slide
'60s neuralizer. Yeah.
Yeah, the '60s neuralizer was a giant machine, and somehow in the course of a day, it went from a giant machine that you had to get in like an MRI machine to this little belt pack thing.
Yeah, the battery
So-
pack on it.
Yeah, with a battery pack on it.
Yeah, the portable neuralizer had not quite reached peak efficiency at that point.
Oh, but it was getting there.
They're working on it.
Yeah.
Always working. And there's actually, Jay had like a new neuralizer for this one. Like it had gotten even sleeker in the last 14 years since like Men in Black 2-ish era. Because we actually get like a real timeline that Jay illustrates. He says, "Hey, 25 years from now, you're going to recruit me, and then 14 years after that, you're going to get killed by this guy going in the past." And I was like, "Man, is Men in Black 3 set 14 years? It feels like such a long time for these characters to have gone on and known each other." And Jay looks noticeably older here.
Yeah.
It's hard to think of Will Smith as not as like, the 90s Will Smith, but he was starting to show it by 2012. I was like, man, Jay's old.
First one came out in 97 or 98?
97.
I mean, that's basically 15 years from 2012. So, I mean, it's real time.
Yeah. It's just hard to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely took their time with these movies, which, again, not always a bad thing. You take your time, craft a story. They did not do that with two. But I feel like they did a better job with this one. Overall, you get to learn more about Kay, which is pretty nice. You see that he was a human, and you get to see, what happened to him, which I get. I was torn on that because that was kind of a big underlying plot point of this movie of what happened to Kay. What shook him to his core so much that he changed to become like closed off, doesn't share anything. And I don't necessarily feel like the payoff was believable for what changed him that much. Because I know that in the end, we find out the colonel that got them to the rocket was Jay's father, and that he ended up being killed by Boris. But I expected something more. I thought Kay was going to be the reason that his dad died or something like that. And I don't feel like it was conveyed in that strong of a way. And for him to react that way after having saved Jay, you'd think that he would want to kind of give that presence. I don't know. It just didn't really land for me. That's like the one main critique I have is I just didn't find it fully believable why K was the way he is when they built it up so much.
If I had to say if there's one character that I really loved, it was the character of Griffin.
Yeah.
I thought Griffin was great. And because he just had that benevolent type of personality, he really wanted to help. I was waiting for that moment where he was going to turn evil.
Hmm.
And
You know, Griffin was going to turn evil?
Yeah. I mean,
Characters are rare. Characters with that much power seem rarely that benevolent.
yeah. And the fact that he genuinely wanted to help. You know, like there's something about him. And Michael Stuhlbarg was great. I will say, he's the standout of this movie.
Yeah.
Along with Josh Brolin.
Yeah, for a character with clairvoyance, I thought they actually wrote that really in a fun way, where he was just like, he's seeing all these alternate timelines, and he would just say, I hope this is the one where this happens, or if this is the one where this happens, then this is about to happen. And like him like going like, yeah, I got 10 seconds, I got 20 seconds, and them like, you know, like, and him going, oh no, this is, yeah, it was just a really fun way to write the character. He seemed enigmatic, but not hard to understand necessarily.
Yeah.
So yeah. And in terms of Kay's character change, I kind of see where you're coming from, Garrett. I think that it could have been more Kay's fault. I guess the idea is just that Kay feels like he has this bond with Jay that he can't share yet. Hey, knock off that bargain. He can't share yet. He wants to. But like he might know that like I'm not going to be able to share this moment with Jay until Jay comes back, until Jay does this happens sometime in the future. And then I can finally be myself with him, because I have to let him find out what happened for himself or something like that. Who knows? Because they don't make that outright clear. But I thought they could have done maybe a little bit more to foreshadow that. But I feel like it just all of a sudden it comes out of nowhere that Jay's dad is this guy. And obviously they want it to be a bit of a twist in the final moment, but it kind of like honestly, the second that Mike Coulter showed up, I was like, oh, that's going to be Jay's dad.
See, I didn't see that coming.
Because like there's no other. I mean, call it racist. I don't know. There was no. There's.
I don't think we need to call it that.
It's like a suddenly prominent black actor appears at the.
But he wasn't prominent at the time. I mean, he was not Luke Cage at this point in time, and that's what he's pretty well known for.
In this movie, we've seen like 2 other black men in the entire movie. So and like and this is the only one who would fit that bit. And I don't know. I was just like, this is gonna be Jay's dad. And then sure enough, it was. And I was like,
yeah, I didn't really see that coming. I thought it surprised me a little bit that they were all there. I think what surprised me the most was the fact that Jay was there. Maybe that's what surprised me the most. Mm-hmm. Not so much that turned out to be his dad, but the fact that he was there and met Kay and then got neuralized himself as a kid. I think that really caught me off guard. I was not expecting that.
And from a story perspective, it makes perfect sense that at some point Jay was going to interact with his own personal past.
Yeah.
So I can see why you would assume that this character would be at least somehow related to him.
Right.
Yeah. And because even like the son of the guy who invented the time travel machine says, oh, that means you were there. That's why you can remember everything, because you were there. Or why you don't forget it exactly. He goes, you got to tell me all about it. The interesting element that they don't really get into is, so does Kay know? I guess Kay has known this all this time. Does that play into him recruiting Jay to be in the Men in Black to start with?
Probably.
I would assume so.
Because I mean, understandably, he acts like it's the first time he's ever seen, met, or even knows who James is in the first Men in Black movie, because obviously they didn't have this story in place. So is that the story that like Kay just recruited him, has been watching him all this time for like these past 25 years, and then eventually goes and finds, goes and like watches him, and he just happens to run across an alien plot. Oh, how fortunate. This kid that I, have been watching over all this time, I can recruit now into Men in Black. It's uncertain, but interesting if so.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be. I don't know if he was watching him so much as it was maybe just like one of those serendipitous cosmic coincidences that they cross paths at this time in the past and then meet again in the future.
But you would also think that it would only make sense for Kay for Kay to act like he doesn't know Jay because he neuralized him. So to have that kind of, he has to go along with that particular aspect of the story. Jay doesn't know who he is. He doesn't remember that. Right. And Kay knows that he zippy zapped him and can't be like, hey, you remember that time I was there when your dad died?
Kay's also been neuralized a time or two over the years, so
that's true.
Maybe that memory never came back.
Yeah.
You got to think that not everything came back.
Yeah.
Right.
That's very true.
Maybe something from 1969 just wasn't gonna make it.
Maybe he neuralized himself at the end of that day.
Could be.
You never know.
If I had to see that kind of stuff, I might neuralize myself.
Although he seems to remember it just fine in the when he's like telling Kay to stay away. A pretty neat scene, I think, before they go back in time is when Kay is like gets his gun ready and he's sitting at his door. He's like sitting in his living room, like waiting for Boris to show up, take him out, and then like the timeline changes.
Yeah.
And Kay and everything disappears. I thought that was a really cool element because, if you don't know about the time travel, it's leading you to go one way, and then it goes a totally different way. If you know about the time travel element, you're thinking like, oh man, he was, he didn't even know, like they didn't know that was going to be their last conversation. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. So I really like the way that they handled time travel in this movie because you see it happen in real time. Like you knew that Boris was going to go back in time. He had mentioned that he was going to go back in time, kill Kay before he shot off his arm. So you knew something was going to happen, but the way they set it up was really unexpected because you didn't see any of it. And I really liked that. You see Kay getting ready, prepared for Boris to just barge in and kill him there. And then all of a sudden he's zapped out of existence. And Jay feels it. Something within Jay has changed. And he's the only one that remembers Kay being old. And it really just kind of shows, again, I know that he goes back in time and is there for this, and that's ended up being why he remembers everything. But it also really just shows the connection that those two have built over time. That Jay feels, basically, there's a disturbance in the Force, and that something is wrong with Kay. And so he goes to work. You see Will Arnett, and he's like, who are you? And he's like, I'm your partner. I'm Batman. And he's talking about Kay, and the only person at the agency who knows about Kay is Agent O because they work together as youngins. And she lets him, like, tells him the story of all of this stuff, but because he's able to talk about, that coffee tastes like dirt because it was ground this morning, like those types of things, she's able to piece together, oh, you went back or you time traveled or something happened back in time, you have to go back.
Like,
and then,
Kay.
Yeah.
It's not just a matter of like you vaguely know him, you know him.
Yeah.
Those are the things he said.
And the whole aesthetic of a literal time jump. It's just, they handle it in a way that I'd never seen before. And I think it was really smart to set up the disappearance of Kay without it being seen. You don't need to see Boris go back in time because he already did it.
Yeah.
Or he already said what he wanted to do. And so that gave you this moment of unexpected, whoa, I was not ready for that. I expected a fight. And then no, boom, just gone. I thought it was really smart.
Yeah, the mystery of how he succeeded is more interesting than actually seeing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with Andrew. Also, I really liked Griffin. Thought he was a wise old bird. I thought it was clever. I really, my favorite of his like different futures, when they landed the jetpacks, and he goes, I'm so glad this isn't one of the times we exploded. And Jay went, one of the times.
One of the times.
but he was just this, overarching presence of joy. Even though he went through so much crazy, he was always so positive with everything. And then that moment where he separated himself and goes, I just can't bear to watch this part. You knew something was going to happen, but I also expected him to die, because there's another scene where he's talking to Jay and says, where there is death, there will always be death. So I half expected him to sacrifice himself in order for Kay and Jay to successfully execute sending the ARPANET into space and deploying it and saving Kay and getting rid of Boris. So I'm glad he didn't die. I just really expected him to.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The concept of the character, the way they utilized him. He's very, he has an innocent quality about him. It kind of reminded me, I could imagine this type of character on like Star Trek. Obviously they would use it in the show a little differently, but just this character that just kind of knows what's going to happen, or all
like
possible interpretations.
He's like if Q weren't a jerk.
Yeah, he's like he's a member of the Q continuum. He knows what's going to happen. He has sort of this omniscient knowledge of any outcome, but there's an innocence about him of like he's looking forward to seeing what it will be, and he takes particular interest in Earth stuff. It's great, like him wanting to watch the 69 or 70 Mets, win the World Series, those type of things. There's a charm about it that I didn't expect, because I didn't even know going in that this character was an element. And it was really, and it's always fun to have a character who knows more than the main characters, but doesn't spill it for the audience. That's always an interesting. I don't want to say it's always an interesting character type to bring in, is sort of the character who has the wisdom of what's going, the wisdom, but doesn't necessarily ruin it for everybody. What did you guys think of Agent O for what for what there is of her?
I wish we could have gotten a little more.
I agree.
I really enjoy Emma Thompson as an actor, and her speech at Zed's funeral was hysterical. Anyone who can just sit there and make noises like that for that long and not break character is why didn't she get an Oscar for that scene?
I haven't seen. Yeah,
she's great. We know her. She has a great presence, and I do wish we could have seen a little more of her.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I think she brings a cool, different dynamic than say Zed did in the first two movies.
Yeah,
where she commands that same level of authority, but in a much more, much more intelligent way.
Well, and they tease
a less
us
intimidating
with
way at times.
They tease us with this idea of there being something between O and K, but we don't get to really see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just wish we could have explored more of her, since they were giving us these nuggets anyway.
Yeah. And I know she's going to reappear in Men in Black International, being sort of the connective tissue between the two.
She's actually in it. I was thinking that. Never mind. Ignore
yeah. So we there's that element.
She be in it.
Yeah. So I like that aspect. I doubt that was their intention when they cast her, but if they ever do pursue more of this Men in Black stuff, it leaves the door open for J and K to meet whatever the names of Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson are.
I think it was good to not have Zed in this movie.
Rip Torn hadn't passed away at this point.
No, he hadn't. But I think that this movie, while it goes back to the original and how it's paced and then the feeling of it, I think it's a different type of movie than the first two. I think Zed is perfect for the leadership that you get in those first two. He's a little more hokey. He's a little more funny. But this is a more personal movie than we get from the other two. And for her to, I know that Zed and A in the movie go back 40 years or however long they worked together, but don't have personal aesthetic that O and K did that this whole movie about. This movie is a personal movie, not an end of the world movie. And I think that she being the one that's in charge fits that aesthetic more than Zed does.
Mhm.
So I think it was a good change. And yeah, Emma Thompson's great.
I want to talk about one of my favorite scenes. Then there might not be much to talk about. I just want to say that it's one of my favorite scenes. The pie scene and
Yeah.
Kay's pie talk to Jay. I can't remember what he says, but he's like, "Tell it to the pie" or something like that.
You can trust
And
Pie.
Trust the pie. His whole idea is that you just need to like get away, eat a piece of pie, and it'll solve your problems.
Mhm.
And that's nice in theory. But it worked this time. And it also got to be used as a point for Kay to sit down and tell Jay, okay, ask me anything. Let's talk. You always talk about how in the future you don't, you've been my partner for so long, but you don't even know me. Let's do it. And I like that. And that's another part that I wish we could have gone a little longer too, but
Yeah. Pie is just a
as it
weird.
was.
Pie is a weird reoccurring theme in all these movies. That is where Jay took Patrick Warburton to be neuralized in the first time. I'm sure there's some reference of pie in the first one, but it really is just this moment of you need to get away. And it's good advice, really. I mean, you focus so much on what's going wrong. Sometimes you have to get away to clear your head. And that's whenever you have your moments of clarity. And yeah, it was a really nice
It
connective
led
moment.
to Jay figuring out where to go to find Griffin. So
Yeah.
found him at
He
the
started
game.
hearing those key words.
And we
he
got-
stopped thinking about it. Started
We
listening.
got to find out that Kay eats his pie with cheddar cheese, which is a thing I'm aware of, and I'm also a little grossed out by.
Yeah,
Choice.
Yes.
apple pie and cheddar cheese I know is a thing, and I can't understand why. I feel like that's Andrew might have an answer to that. He's a connoisseur.
He shook
of
his
food.
head like he's never heard of it. Have you even heard of that?
Hell no.
Okay.
Wouldn't do
I don't
You know-
recommend it, but I know it's the thing is done.
I would never.
What
mix
I don't know.
pie
The
with
problem
cheese.
is, I don't know how to try it. I don't want.
Just
Take a
I
bite of
just
pie,
want a
take a bite
bite
of
of
cheese.
that. Ugh.
Take a bite of pie, take a bite of cheese.
But then you don't
Yeah,
know what
maybe
is
the
the
palate
ratio.
or
Yeah.
here.
And
Just
how
you
much
just take
cheese?
like
Yeah,
you
how
just take
much
like a
cheese?
slice of cheese.
Is
and
it a
just rub
slice
it
of
on-
cheese? Is it shredded?
It was I assume it's sliced like a cheddar block.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just
Yeah,
take
is it
like a
eaten
slice and just
separately
put it
or
on
is it
top.
eaten together? Ugh. I don't know.
Yeah, I
More of a
pictured
cake
it
man myself.
laying a slice of cheese on top of the pie.
Yes.
I don't know.
Don't know about
that.
that.
That was one of my favorite moments in the movie.
That is a good
Nice.
moment. It is a very good moment.
I also
Uh,
liked the scene where the surprise time travel happens, where Jay is fighting Old Boris, and they jump off the side of the rocket, and Jay hits the time travel button, goes back like 30 seconds, so he knows what's going to happen in the scene, where
Mhm.
he's able to avoid the scorpion-style spikes of Boris and just push Old Boris off rather than having both of them go over
Right.
at the same time. I thought that was a pretty clever, and again, something that I didn't see coming because the arm had blown off. And so I thought that was, a good way to throw a little expected thing in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I thought so too. But overall, I think it's like every element is kind of a better step forward than we really had with Men in Black 2. Even down to the unnecessary roles for non-actors. 'Cause I think we had Pussycat Doll, Nicole Scherzinger,
Yeah.
Nicole
beginning of the movie.
Scherzinger was in there, yeah.
breaking Boris out. Which at first when I saw her, I was like, "Oh man, is she gonna be in this movie like a lot?"
I actually
Luckily
thought that was Kim Kardashian.
Yeah,
So are you just now finding out it was Nicole Scherzinger?
No,
Oh.
like whenever I first saw it, I'm like, that looks like Kim Kardashian, and kind of looks like her. And I thought the alien that she was breaking out, I thought that was Tim Curry.
Mhm.
So we also we talked about some of those more subtle jokes.
I'm sure Jermaine will take that as a compliment.
Probably compared
Yeah.
to the more blatant ones. And I didn't even notice as I'm reading through here. I didn't notice that Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga make uncredited cameo appearances as aliens on television monitors. Did anyone
I
else
didn't know that either.
I didn't
No,
notice
I
it in
did
the
not.
background, but
Oh.
yeah, that's the kind of stuff that you got in Men in Black 1
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
went really obvious with in Men in Black 2.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where you have to really be looking to see it, and if you do see it, it probably pays off a lot better because I missed those.
One of the really subtle premises is that basically all Canadians are aliens. Canada,
Fair enough.
because like if you pay, you look at the background, a lot of Canadians pop up in there.
Interesting. Well, shall we move on to talking about the box office for this
Yeah.
movie, which I
Yeah.
believe is the highest grossing of the franchise?
It is. So modern
Wow.
modern numbers are going to play into that a little bit. Just the
Sure,
way.
but you don't gotta ruin the vibe with your
No.
influence.
It's true. They were the real message here is that in terms of what the studios expected, Men in Black 3 was considered a big success. So Men in Black 3 debuted May 25th, like we said, Memorial Day weekend in 2012. It finished number 1 with a 3-day opening of $54.5 million. Not bad. It's about, if you look at just the number without looking at the dates, it's pretty dead even with the other two movies because your first movie opened up to 52 million, your second to 51, your third to 54. So if you take away the ideas of inflation or things like that, pretty dead even. You extend that to its Memorial Day 4-day, its Memorial Weekend 4-day, and you get 69.4 million. So looking at the what else opened that weekend, Men in Black has the distinct honor of being the movie that knocked Avengers off the number 1 spot in 2012. Avengers was in its 4th weekend and finished number 2 with 36.6 million. At number 3, you had everybody's favorite game based on a movie based on a board game, not Battleship, starring Rihanna, Liam Neeson, I think. Who knows?
That was a Peter Berg movie.
That was in its 2nd week with 11 million. You had The Dictator. You guys remember this movie?
Yep.
No.
Sacha Baron Cohen.
Sacha Baron Cohen's The Dictator
No.
made 9.2 million in its 2nd weekend. And then at number 5, The Chernobyl Diaries. Did you guys ever see that?
Nope.
No.
The Chernobyl Diaries, that's its opening weekend, and it brought in 7.9 million. So in terms of the top 5, you really only have 2 sequels. I guess it can be a matter of opinion whether or not Avengers is a true sequel or if it's a crossover series, if it's its own category. But Men in Black 3, The Avengers, the only real 2 sequels there in the top 5. The next highest grossing sequel on that list is the Journey to the Center of the Earth 2, which was at number 24 at that time. Let me see now. Men in Black 3 would finish out with $179 million in the United States over its 16-week run. You add $445 million from overseas to give you a worldwide total of $624 million unadjusted, making it, yes, the highest grossing of the Men in Black franchise. Also coming out in 2012, Men in Black 3 would finish fairly low compared to its predecessor movies. Men in Black 3 finished in the number 14 spot worldwide at $179 million. The number 1 movie that year was as you might figure, Marvel's The Avengers. Number 2, The Dark Knight Rises. Number 3, and the highest grossing original or non-sequel, I guess you could say, is The Hunger Games. At number 4, Skyfall, and at number 5, The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey. The highest grossing original concept movie that year was Brave, followed just behind by Ted. The movie that was just narrowly ahead of Men in Black, so like Men in Black finished number 14, just ahead of it is one of my more favorite movies from 2012, Steven Spielberg's Lincoln.
Yep.
And then just ahead of that, you have Wreck-It Ralph, which is a movie we've reviewed in the past.
True.
Total, we have reviewed quite a few movies from 2012. We did Avengers. We did Dark Knight Rises. Like I said, we did Wreck-It Ralph. Also coming out in 2012, Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol.
It's a good year for sequels.
It was a very good year for sequels. Good years for movie in general. At the Oscars, this was the year Argo won Best Picture. Other movies that were nominated that year: Amour, Beast of the Southern Wild, Django Unchained, Les Mis, Life of Pi, Lincoln, like we mentioned, Silver Linings Playbook, and Zero Dark 30. So overall, not a bad year for movies.
Where'd Django Unchained land on the overall total for the year?
Hang on,
Was it in the top 10?
It was not in the top 10.
Really?
Django Unchained finished.
It did make over 100 million.
Yeah, well, let's see here. Fine. Django Unchained finished, just behind Men in Black at number 15. I should have saw
wow.
it. I assumed it looked past it. It made 162 million domestically.
Wow. I'm surprised.
So not really bad. It's lower than you would think, but it's one of the 31 movies that finished over 100 million that year. So pretty good year.
Yeah,
I think. That's really it. No other real special stats to throw out from Men in Black 3. Other than they were really impressed with this and they wanted to greenlight a fourth one. Both Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith were interested in a fourth one, and development they tried for a while, but it would ultimately be another 7 years before we would get another installment in the Men in Black franchise.
One thing I haven't talked about that I want to jump on real quick is the 21 Jump Street Men in Black crossover that was originally pitched.
Yes.
I still wish I could have seen it.
Yeah, it would have been. I feel like it would have been interesting. I've not seen any of the Jump Street movies, but
They're so
I love
funny.
Yeah, I love the directors. I love Jonah Hill.
Yeah, these guys
I have grown to very much enjoy Channing Tatum. If you just lean into him being a fool most of the time, like I quite enjoy him. And I was pretty against it because I was like, how does that even make sense? But I'm all for it, especially if international is as bad as I'm expecting it to be.
I would at least love to see like a concept video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how they made that test footage for Deadpool and like after it was released to the world, it instantly got fast tracked.
Yeah.
I would love to just see concept footage of what that's supposed to look like. They even got as far as a title. People were writing for this movie. It got to MIB 23.
Yeah.
I don't know what would have happened, why they, what inspired that idea, but
and then the real travesty is that we did not get a Will Smith song for this. We got a Pitbull song, which is just so bad.
I know. It was not something I enjoyed.
No.
Definitely compared to a Will Smith song.
Yeah.
We got a better movie for it, though. So
we did get a better movie.
I'll take that trade.
Fair.
I got to have a bad 2.5-minute Pitbull song for a good hour-and-a-half Will Smith Men in Black movie.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Because at least you can walk out of the
Pitbull. I turned off the credits. Was not necessary.
Yep.
Okay. Well, shall we play our letterboxd game now?
Yep. Garrett won, or Andrew won last week.
No, don't give him that victory.
Garrett won because you Price is Right at Andrew. That's right.
Exactly.
I got him. All right. So, based on Letterboxd, a review of 66,358 people. Where do we think?
Close to the last one.
Is it? Where do we think this movie falls?
3.4.
3.4 for Andrew.
3.2.
I will say 3.0.
3.4 for Andrew. 3.2 for Jersh. 3.0.
I thought Josh said 2.2.
3.2. No.
I'm
Not
sorry.
2. The movie's better than that.
3.0 for David. According to the Letterboxd, you, Mr. David, are the closest. And by closest, I mean exactly right with 3.0.
Woo! Dead 3.
Dead ringer. Cool.
21,927 other people also gave this movie a 3.0, which
Is
is
this on anybody's favorite movie lists? Do you have access to that information?
there are 16 fans of this movie.
That's it.
That's
Yep.
it. There are 16 people who put this up there.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah.
an interesting stat. We should do that one from now on because that's kind of like that's kind of interesting.
It is kind of interesting.
Nobody has any. I was going to pick one of them and read one of their reviews, but they don't have any reviews. Just a lot of 4.5 stars and hearts, but no actual reviews that I can read. So, sorry, folks. If you had one, I'd read it, but they don't.
Has Arch reviewed this movie?
That's a good question. Let me see.
Our patron Arch, he's reviewed. We've read some of his reviews in the past. He's on Letterboxd as well.
I do not see him on the list.
I see a couple reviews.
I'm talking about for the fans.
Oh, for those
the
16
big fans.
Of the 16 people that have done it, yeah. Yeah, there are obviously reviews, but I was just going to pick one of the people who said it was one of their favorite 4 movies.
They like it so much they couldn't review it. I see how it is.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we give this movie?
I give it a 3.5.
Yeah, I think I'll second with a 3.5 because I like this movie. I think I like this movie about equal to the fourth, but I think, I'm sorry, not the fourth, equal to the first. But I think the first, just because of its, I think nostalgia just boosts the first one by a full half star. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I gave the first one 4 stars, so I give this one 3.
I think I gave the first one 4.5. I can't remember, but I'm going to give this one a 4. Like, I really like the personal connection. I like the villain. It's such a vast improvement of the second one, and I'm gonna give it a 4.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I agree with David. I think I like it just about as much as the first, so I'm gonna give them both the same score.
Yeah,
and that makes our So Many Sequels review 3.6.
3.6. So
All right.
probably just round down to 3.5, I assume.
Probably easier to do that.
They don't let you do 0.6, 0.7s on your personal score.
No, and I wish they did because we're just that kind of annoying people. I want to make it precise. Exactly.
It's frustrated for our what do you call it? Coalesced score.
Right.
It's frustrating for that reason. But are they getting rid of the stars, by the way? On Letterboxd, I thought I saw an update saying that they were gonna make them flames instead of stars.
They did for Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Portrait of a Lady on Fire. When you rate that movie, it is fire instead of stars, and that's the only one I've seen do that. So I think it might just be a cute little thing they did for that movie.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay,
it's been one of the it's fun. I saw that it's been one of the more popular reviewed movies on the site, so I think they were just doing something for the fans.
That would be cool if somebody took the time to basically do what So Many Sequels used to do and rank based on weird things that are vaguely connected to the movie. Like if you could rate Avengers by Infinity Stones, or if you could rate, Halloween movies by slasher knives, that type of stuff. That'd be really neat, but that sounds like a lot of work.
It does. I'm sure someone could do it, though. All right. Well, so next week, David will run the game when we talk about Men in Black International.
Maybe.
Yep.
We're going to talk about... I think you're the only one that's seen that, Josh.
I think I am.
You're the only one with a pre-watch.
I'm kind of hoping that you all will like it more than you think just because I've tore it down so much.
Yeah, I kind of worried about that. I was like, Josh has made my expectations so low for this, and I'm going to walk away going, oh, man.
If that happens, then you can thank me. No, listen, I don't think people are going to like it. I don't. You might think it's not as bad, but it's going to be your least favorite of the series. I guarantee it for all of you.
Andrew gave the last one a 1.
That's true. Andrew gave Men in Black.
Andrew, watch. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Let's put that on notice and let's see how he changes his score for Men in Black 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so that wraps up this episode. You can find us online at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I always forget that one. But
Patreon.
We've not done a lot on it yet, but we're going to do more YouTube. And yes, Patreon.
Yes, check us out.
Somebody, please be Arch's friend. We need another patron.
Trying to grow the community. We know there's people out there listening. We know you get on our check out our Facebook, comment, let us know. We got a great video right now with you guys playing some trivia. Let us know. You know what?
And we got more where that came from.
I'll even give you a hint. All right, the first video, name a movie that starts with B. Let us know what Garrett and Andrew missed, and Josh.
Missed a lot.
These men couldn't think of Bad Santa. Go think of another B movie.
We did not think of Bad. Oh, we didn't think of B movie.
No, that was the first thing Andrew said. Yeah.
Oh, did he?
Andrew said B movie. I just sit there with him. Bad Santa. Bad Santa.
As you shouldn't.
Bad Santa.
Somebody said basketball. That was one that came to me afterwards.
Listen, it's so easy when you're not the one playing.
Yeah, you turn that timer on the 10 seconds and see what happens.
I was playing. The timer was running when I was yelling at you.
Well, maybe we need to play it through this Zoom thing sometime soon.
Ooh, yeah,
that could be interesting.
Get more videos.
Not much latency. Hey, like we were talking about, hop on Patreon, help us reach $15. Because if we do that, then we can start using. We can upgrade to Zoom Premium.
True.
Do more. Yeah. We can record for longer.
Yeah.
do more interactive stuff.
And speaking of which, we're running out of time on this Zoom meeting, so we do got to wrap it up. But like I said, find us online. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts: iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundsTooth. All of those great apps have our show on it. And if you listen on iTunes, you should rate and review because that helps us out as well. That's it. We'll be back next time with Men in Black International. Till next time.
Shut up, Alexa.
That's a good ending right there.
That is a good ending.